The human space station Ilaos Haven drifted quietly at the edge of explored space, its metal halls filled with the soft hum of life support systems and distant footsteps. It was a place built for research, rescue, and refuge, far from the conflicts of the wider galaxy. Among the many beings who lived there was a small alien girl, known to the humans simply as Lyra. She was an orphan, the last survivor of a destroyed world, taken in by humans after her rescue years ago. Though her appearance marked her as alien, her daily life had become strangely normal, shaped by human care, routines, and quiet kindness. Lyra moved slowly through one of the station's observation corridors, her fingers brushing the transparent wall as stars slid past in silence. She often came here when her thoughts felt heavy. Humans had given her safety, food, and education, but memories of loss still lingered deep inside her. On this day, however, her thoughts were interrupted by an unfamiliar sensation. It started as a dull ache between her shoulder blades, small enough to ignore at first, like muscle strain. She tried to continue walking, but the feeling grew sharper, almost alive, as if something beneath her skin was shifting. She stopped and pressed her back against the cool wall, breathing carefully. The pain was not constant. It came in slow waves, each one stronger than the last. Lyra had known injury before, but this was different. This felt purposeful. Her reflection in the glass showed nothing unusual, yet the pressure beneath her skin continued to grow. Fear began to creep into her chest, tightening her breath. She had lived among humans long enough to know that strange changes were never simple, especially for someone like her. Lyra turned away from the window and made her way toward the medical wing, her steps uneven. Every movement sent another pulse through her back, followed by a strange warmth that spread outward. As she walked, faint tingling sensations reached down her arms, and her balance wavered. She leaned against the corridor wall more than once, drawing curious looks from passing crew members. None of them stopped her, assuming she was simply tired, but Lyra knew something was wrong. When she reached the medical section, she hesitated at the doorway. Human doctors had always been kind, but she feared what they might find. Taking a steadying breath, she stepped inside. The lights were bright, the air clean and sharp with sterile scent. A familiar human officer noticed her immediately. Commander Hale, a tall man with calm eyes and a steady voice, had been one of her protectors since her arrival on the station. He approached her with concern, lowering himself slightly to meet her gaze. "Lyra, you look unwell," he said gently. "What's happening?" She opened her mouth to speak, then stopped as another wave of sensation rolled through her back, stronger than before. Her hands clenched at her sides, and her voice came out quiet and uncertain. "Sir, something is growing on my back," she said. The words hung in the air, heavier than they sounded. Commander Hale did not react with panic, but his expression sharpened with focus. He guided her to an examination table and called for medical staff. As Lyra sat, the pressure beneath her skin intensified, no longer just painful but restless, as if responding to the room around her. The medical scanner passed slowly over her body, its soft lights shifting color as it read her biology. The human doctors exchanged confused glances as data streamed across their displays. Her vital signs were stable, yet her cellular readings showed rapid activity. Tissues along her spine were changing, adapting, reorganizing themselves in patterns no human database could fully identify. One of the doctors adjusted the scanner, narrowing the field, while another quietly requested additional analysis. Lyra lay still, staring at the ceiling, trying not to panic. She trusted the humans, but fear whispered that change often led to separation. She had already lost one home. She did not want to lose another. As if sensing her thoughts, Commander Hale placed a reassuring hand near her shoulder, careful not to touch her back. "You're safe here," he said firmly. "Whatever this is, we'll face it together." The scanner suddenly emitted a low alert tone. A new structure was forming beneath her skin, symmetrical and complex, following no known pattern of illness or injury. The doctors stared in silence as the readings stabilized into something unmistakable. This was not damage. This was development. Commander Hale straightened, his voice low but steady. "This isn't a sickness," he said. "It's an activation." Lyra felt another deep movement beneath her back, stronger than before, as if something ancient had been waiting for the right moment to awaken. The medical wing of Ileas Haven felt different after the discovery, as if the walls themselves were listening. Lyra remained under observation, resting on a narrow bed while soft lights shifted above her. The strange sensation in her back had not faded, instead it had settled into a steady pressure, warm and patient, like something waiting for the right moment. Around her, human doctors spoke in calm voices, but their eyes revealed uncertainty. They had treated many species, yet nothing in their experience matched what they were seeing in her scans. Commander Hale stood near the doorway, reviewing the incoming data. His expression was controlled, but his thoughts were heavy. The patterns forming along Lyra's spine were not random, they followed an intelligent design, one that suggested intention rather than accident. When he authorized a deeper analysis, the station's systems began pulling archived records from the day Lyra had been rescued years ago. A human patrol had discovered her, drifting alone in a damaged escape pod near the remains of an unknown world. At the time, little had been learned beyond the fact that her species had been wiped out by a sudden planetary collapse, or so they believed. As the data resurfaced, hidden fragments of information emerged. Old sensor logs showed energy readings that had been ignored during the rescue, considered background noise at the time. Now those readings matched the signals appearing in Lyra's body. The implication was unsettling. Her people had not simply died, they had activated something before the end, something designed to survive beyond destruction. Commander Hale realized that Lyra might never have been an ordinary child. She might have been a living continuation of her species' final decision. Lyra shifted on the bed as another pulse moved through her back. It no longer frightened her as much as it had before. Instead, it felt familiar, like a memory returning. She closed her eyes and images rose unbidden. A burning sky, towering shapes made of light, and voices speaking without sound. She could not understand the words, yet their meaning pressed into her mind. Protect, adapt, endure. When she opened her eyes, she found Commander Hale watching her with quiet concern. She asked in a soft voice if the humans were going to send her away. The question cut deeper than any alarm. The room fell silent for a moment before Hale stepped closer and spoke with certainty. He told her that humans did not abandon children, especially not those who trusted them. His words were not protocol, they were promise. Lyra felt the tension in her chest ease slightly, though the weight on her back continued to grow. Elsewhere on the station, senior staff gathered to discuss the situation. Some argued that Lyra's condition posed a risk to station safety. Others insisted that fear was not reason enough to turn away a child. The debate reflected a familiar human struggle between caution and compassion. In the end, the decision was clear. Lyra would remain protected. Whatever she was becoming would be understood, not feared. Back in the medical wing, the scanners updated once more, revealing a clearer shape beneath her skin. Two large, symmetrical structures extended outward from her spine, following pathways her body seemed to recognize instinctively. The doctors watched in disbelief as her biology adapted around the change, strengthening bones and reinforcing muscles to support what was forming. There was no sign of rejection or damage, only harmony, as if her body had always known this moment would come. Lyra sat up slowly, supported by the bed. As she felt a sudden shift, the pressure became movement. Something unfolded just enough to send a ripple through the air. The lights flickered briefly, responding to an energy pulse that lasted less than a second, but it was enough. The room felt different, charged, alive. The medical staff froze, unsure whether to step back or forward. Commander Hale met Lyra's gaze and saw not fear but confusion mixed with a growing sense of purpose. He understood then that her transformation was not a threat, it was a legacy. Her people had not disappeared quietly into history. They had trusted time, chance, and perhaps humanity itself to protect what came next. As Lyra placed a hand against her back, she felt the shape clearly, now folded close, waiting. The station alarms remained silent, but far beyond Ileas Haven, something ancient stirred. The activation that had begun within a small orphan girl had sent a signal into the void, and somewhere in the darkness of space something had noticed. Ileas Haven did not fall into chaos after the discovery, but the tension spread quietly like a shadow moving through the station. Crew members spoke in lower voices and paused longer at corridor intersections. News traveled fast even when no official announcement was made. An alien child changing in ways no database could explain was not something easily ignored. For some it awakened curiosity, for others it awakened fear. Lyra could feel it in the way people looked at her, not with cruelty but with uncertainty, as if they were trying to decide what she truly was. She was moved from the open medical ward to a private observation room designed to be comfortable rather than secure. Soft lighting replaced the harsh glow of scanners, and a wide window looked out into the starfield. Yet, even in this calm space, Lyra sensed a shift within herself. The structures along her back pressed closer to the surface, responding to emotions rather than pain. When fear touched the station, they reacted. When kindness approached, they settled. She did not understand why, but her body seemed to listen to the world around her. Commander Hale attended the emergency council meeting called by station leadership. The discussion was intense. Some officers argued that unknown biological evolution was a risk too great to ignore. They spoke of containment protocols, isolation, and relocation. Others pushed back, reminding the room that Lyra was a child who had already lost everything. The words threat and safety echoed again and again until Hale finally spoke. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. He reminded them that Elias Haven existed because humans believed in protection over abandonment, refuge over fear, progress over panic. Silence followed as the weight of his words settled. While the debate continued, Lyra sat alone, tracing patterns on the glass with her fingers. She could feel emotions from across the station as if they carried a faint echo. Fear felt sharp and cold. Kindness felt warm and steady. At one point, the pressure on her back surged unexpectedly, and she gasped. The sensation was not painful but powerful, like muscles stretching. For the first time, she pulled her knees close to her chest, unsure if she was allowed to be afraid. A human nurse entered quietly, carrying a small tray of food. She smiled naturally, as she always had, and asked if Lyra was hungry. The simple question broke something inside her. The girl hesitated, then asked in a small voice if the humans were scared of her. The nurse paused, then answered honestly. She said some were scared because humans often feared what they did not understand, but she also said fear had never stopped humans from protecting children. Lyra nodded, absorbing the words as carefully as she absorbed the food. As the day passed, the sensation on her back intensified, reacting to rising stress across the station. At one point, a loud argument broke out in a nearby corridor, and Lyra felt a sudden movement beneath her skin. A sharp inhale escaped her, as something shifted distinctly. This time there was no doubt something moved on its own. She pressed her back against the wall, heart racing, but the motion stopped as quickly as it began. Medical scans confirmed the change. The structures were no longer passive, they responded to emotional stimuli, particularly fear and perceived danger. The doctors realized that Lyra was not just changing physically, she was awakening. The transformation was tied to awareness, instinct, and protection. Her biology was not preparing for attack but for defense. Commander Hale returned to her room and found her standing uncertainly near the window. He spoke gently, telling her that no one would force her to leave. He told her that humans were choosing to protect her not because it was easy but because it was right. The relief that washed over Lyra was immediate, and the pressure on her back softened, as if responding to his words. Moments later, the station lights dimmed briefly as a system recalibrated. The sound startled Lyra, and in response the movement beneath her back surged once more. This time it did not stop. The fabric of her clothing stretched slightly as two distinct shapes pushed outward. The room air shifted as if displaced by something large yet unseen. Commander Hale took a slow step back, not in fear but in respect. His eyes widened as the shapes became clearer beneath the material, symmetrical, powerful, and folded close to her body. They were not weapons, they were not deformities, they were wings. Lyra trembled, unsure whether to hide or stand still. She looked at Hale, waiting for his reaction. He met her gaze calmly, and said that she was safe. His lack of fear grounded her. The movement slowed, responding to his steady presence. Across Ilos Haven, the decision had been made. Humanity would not turn away. The choice echoed through the station's systems and into Lyra herself as her wings settled, folded tight against her back. One truth became clear: fear had been present, but humanity had chosen something stronger. The moment the wings moved openly, the air in the room seemed to change. Ilos Haven had faced emergencies before, yet this was different. The awakening unfolding within Lyra was not violent, but it carried weight like a silent force pressing outward. Her breathing slowed as instinct took over, guiding muscles and balance in ways she had never learned. The wings unfolded slightly, not fully revealed, yet no longer hidden. They stretched beneath her clothing, creating a clear outline that left no doubt about what was happening. Medical staff watched from a cautious distance, recording data while struggling to understand it. The structures were not artificial, nor were they a mutation caused by human exposure. They were precise, balanced, and ancient, as if designed by generations of evolution. Her bones had reshaped to support them. Her nervous system had adapted seamlessly, linking new sensory pathways to her brain. Lyra was not becoming something new, she was becoming something complete. Commander Hale remained with her, speaking calmly, reminding her to focus on her breathing. His voice acted like an anchor, grounding her as waves of sensation flowed through her body. The warmth along her back spread into her shoulders and down her spine, carrying a sense of awareness that reached beyond the room. She could feel the station hum, the vibration of engines, the distant footsteps of crew members, even the faint energy flow through the walls reached her senses. It was overwhelming yet strangely natural. As Lyra steadied herself, a sudden alert sounded from another section of the station. A minor reactor imbalance caused by routine maintenance triggered a brief warning. It was not dangerous, but the sound carried sharp urgency. The moment it echoed through the corridors, Lyra felt a surge within her. The wings reacted instantly, extending further with a powerful reflexive motion. The room lights flickered as a pulse of energy radiated outward, stabilizing nearby systems without conscious thought. Technicians froze as data streams updated. The imbalance corrected itself faster than automated systems could respond. Lyra gasped, startled by what she had done. She had not touched anything, yet something within her had reached out and acted. Commander Hale understood at once. This was not aggression, this was protection. The medical team realized that Lyra's awakening included an instinctive response to danger, particularly threats to those around her. Her species had evolved not just to survive but to guard. Their final legacy had not been stored in machines or weapons, it had been carried within a child designed to sense harm and act before it could spread. Lyra sat slowly, guided by Hale, as the wings folded inward again, settling against her back like a living shield. She looked frightened, not of her power but of losing control. She asked if she had broken something. Her concern softened the room. The doctors reassured her that she had helped, not harmed. The systems were stable, and the station was safe because of her. Outside the observation room, whispers spread quickly. Fear gave way to awe. Crew members reviewed the recordings, watching a child stabilize a station without effort. The narrative shifted almost instantly. This was not a threat being contained, this was a protector being discovered. Lyra felt exhaustion settle in as the initial surge faded. Her body adjusted, recalibrating energy levels and sensory input. The wings remained folded but present, their weight now familiar rather than alarming. She leaned back, resting, as Hale remained nearby, maintaining a quiet watch. Unnoticed by most, the signal had been released during the energy pulse. It was faint, encoded, and ancient, woven into the very structure of her awakening. The station's sensors barely registered it, but far beyond human space the signal traveled outward, carrying a message that had waited a long time to be sent. As Lyra slept, her dreams changed, no longer filled with loss, they now carried purpose. She saw visions of stars connected by threads of light, and silhouettes standing guard against the dark. She did not know their names, but she felt their intention: protect those who cannot protect themselves. Commander Hale reviewed the data late into the cycle, understanding the weight of what humanity had found. The galaxy held countless dangers, yet it also held responsibility. Humans had chosen to shelter an orphan without knowing what she truly was. Now that truth had begun to unfold, and with it came a challenge far greater than fear. In the quiet hours, Ilas Haven drifted on, unaware that it now carried something rare, a living bridge between species, a guardian shaped by loss and guided by humanity. The awakening was only the beginning. The first sign of danger did not come from the station's sensors, it came from Lyra. She woke suddenly from uneasy rest, her eyes wide and unfocused. The wings along her back tightened, drawing close as a sharp sensation rippled through her chest. It was not pain, it was warning. Something far away had shifted, and her body recognized it instantly. She sat upright, breathing fast as a feeling of approaching threat filled her thoughts without words. Moments later, the station alarms activated. Their tone was low, controlled but urgent. Long-range detection systems had picked up unknown vessels emerging from silent space beyond standard travel lanes. The ships were unlike any registered design. Their hulls absorbed light rather than reflecting it, and their energy signatures carried patterns that matched the ancient signal recorded during Lyra's awakening. The connection was immediate and undeniable. Commander Hale rushed to the command deck as tactical displays filled with red markers. The vessels did not broadcast warnings or demands, they moved with deliberate confidence, heading straight for Ilas Haven. There was no confusion about their intent. They were here for one thing. Lyra felt the pull stronger with every second. The wings shifted restlessly, responding to the proximity of the threat. She could sense minds beyond the hull, cold, focused, and familiar in a way that stirred buried memory. Her species, her people, or what remained of them, twisted by survival. She understood then that her awakening had not gone unnoticed, it had been answered. The station entered defensive posture. Human crews moved with practiced discipline, shields powered up, and evacuation routes were prepared, yet no one suggested abandoning Lyra when a security officer proposed moving her to isolation. Hale shut the idea down instantly. He reminded them that she was not cargo, she was under their protection, and humanity did not hand children to enemies no matter how powerful they appeared. As the unknown fleet closed distance, a transmission finally arrived. The voice was distorted, layered with tones that carried authority. An agent identified Lyra as a legacy asset and demanded her surrender. It claimed ownership over what she carried, insisting that her existence belonged to their survival plan. The message ended with a warning: refusal would result in eradication. Lyra listened silently as the transmission played. Her hands trembled, not from fear but from recognition. She remembered fragments of similar voices in her dreams, guiding, shaping, and commanding. Her wings pressed outward, unconsciously reacting to the threat. The room temperature shifted slightly as energy built around her. Commander Hale knelt in front of her and spoke clearly. He told her that no one would force her to go. He told her the choice was hers, but that humans would stand with her regardless. Her eyes met his, and for the first time there was no uncertainty in them. She shook her head slowly. She did not want to go. She did not belong to those voices anymore. Outside the station, the enemy vessels began charging weapons. The first strike hit the outer shields, testing strength rather than breaking it. Human defense systems responded, firing controlled bursts to push the attackers back. The engagement escalated quickly, filling space with light and force, yet the enemy's ships moved with unnatural coordination, slipping through fire patterns as if predicting every move. Lyra felt the impact of each strike as if it echoed through her bones. Her wings unfolded wider than before, reacting to the danger without conscious thought. Energy flowed through her body, stabilizing her fear, sharpening her focus. She stepped forward despite attempts to restrain her, and placed her hands against the station wall, closing her eyes. The next attack never landed. As the enemy weapons fired, Lyra instinctively released a defensive pulse. It spread outward through the station systems, then beyond, reinforcing shields and disrupting hostile targeting arrays. The effect was immediate. Enemy fire scattered, missing critical points. Human crews stared in disbelief as the impossible became reality. But the enemy adapted quickly. They shifted tactics, moving closer, attempting boarding maneuvers. They were not here to destroy, they were here to take. Lyra turned back to Hale, her wings fully open now, casting long shadows across the room. She was scared, but she was not helpless. She understood what she was meant to do: protect. The battle had only just begun, and for the first time humanity and an alien child stood side by side against the darkness that had come to claim her. The battle around Illaos Haven intensified as enemy vessels closed in from multiple angles. Human crews moved with sharp focus, their fear controlled by training and purpose. Defensive turrets fired in coordinated patterns, while engineers rerouted power to reinforce shields. Each decision was made with one truth in mind: the station was not just metal and systems, it was home, and homes were worth defending. Lyra stood at the center of the storm, her wings fully extended now, no longer hiding what she was becoming. Energy flowed through her in steady waves, no longer wild but guided. Her connection to the station deepened, as if human technology and her ancient biology spoke the same language. She could feel the rhythm of human resistance, and it strengthened her resolve. Boarding pods struck the outer hull, sending vibrations through the station. The enemy moved fast, slipping through breaches with unnatural precision. Human security teams responded immediately, forming defensive lines in corridors and access points. They fought not with panic but with unity, each protecting the person beside them. Every retreat was deliberate, every stand meaningful. Lyra sensed the intruders before they reached key systems. She guided human forces through instinctive warnings transmitted through station channels, not words, but impressions, urgency, direction, timing. Humans adapted instantly, trusting the signals without question. Together they moved as one force, blending strategy and instinct. Commander Hale led a response team through a damaged corridor, smoke filling the air. When an enemy unit emerged, Lyra felt it before Hale saw it. A surge rippled through her wings and the lights flared as she released a focused defensive burst. The intruders staggered, their systems disrupted, giving human forces the opening they needed. The threat was neutralized without unnecessary destruction. Across the station, similar moments unfolded. Enemy forces found themselves blocked, redirected, and outmatched not by superior weapons but by coordination and resolve. The attackers had expected fear and confusion. They had not anticipated cooperation between human and alien, nor the willingness of humans to place themselves in harm's way to protect a single child. The enemy commander transmitted again, this time with urgency and disbelief. Accusations filled the message, claiming humans were wasting a valuable asset, condemning themselves by refusing to surrender. Lyra listened and felt no pull toward the voice anymore. The connection that once frightened her had weakened, replaced by something stronger, belonging. She stepped forward and for the first time responded. Her voice carried through human systems, amplified and clear. She declared that she was not an asset nor a weapon. She was protected, and those who threatened her would be resisted. The transmission cut abruptly as enemy signals faltered under another wave of disruption. Outside the station, the battle shifted. Human ships arrived, answering Ilaos Haven distress call. Their formation was tight, efficient, and unmistakably defensive. They did not chase fleeing enemies, they shielded the station, closing ranks around it like a wall. The message was clear: humanity did not abandon its own. Lyra felt exhaustion tug at her, but she held steady. Her wings adjusted automatically, redistributing energy to support shields and targeting systems. She was no longer reacting blindly, she was choosing when and how to act, learning in real time, guided by instinct and trust. As the enemy fleet finally began to withdraw, Lyra sensed something unexpected: respect mixed with frustration. They had underestimated humanity and overestimated control. The cost of that mistake was failure. When silence returned to space, the station remained standing, damaged but intact. Human crews exhaled together, the tension breaking into quiet relief. Injured were treated, systems stabilized, and for a moment the galaxy felt still. Lyra lowered her wings slowly, folding them close. Once more she swayed, and Hale caught her before she fell. His grip was firm, steady, and human. He told her she had done well. She told him humans had done better. As repairs began and reports were filed, one truth settled across Ilaos Haven: humanity had not won because of superior firepower. They had won because they chose to stand together, protecting the vulnerable, refusing to surrender compassion even when threatened. The enemy had come to take a legacy. Instead, they had witnessed something far more dangerous: humanity united with purpose, and that was a force the galaxy would remember. Ilaos Haven slowly returned to normal life after the battle, though nothing truly felt the same. The station still floated among the stars, but now it carried a story that would spread far beyond its walls. Repairs continued and crews worked side by side with quiet pride, knowing they had defended more than metal and systems. They had defended a promise. Lyra rested in a peaceful chamber surrounded by soft light. Her wings were folded comfortably against her back, no longer heavy or strange. They felt like a natural part of her body, as familiar as her own hands. When she opened her eyes, she felt calm for the first time since her awakening. The fear that once followed her had faded, replaced by a sense of belonging. Commander Hale visited her often, not as an officer but as a guardian. They spoke about small things, about the stars outside the window and the future she might choose. He told her that the council had agreed on something important: she would not be studied as an object or hidden as a secret. She would be recognized as a protected citizen of humanity. Lyra listened quietly, absorbing the meaning. She was not alone anymore, not in this vast galaxy. Across the station, humans spoke of her with respect. Some called her a guardian, others simply called her a child who had been brave. No one demanded answers from her, no one treated her like a weapon. Humanity had made its choice, and it was clear they would help her grow, not control her. Lyra began training, slowly learning to understand her wings and the energy that flowed through her. With human scientists and teachers guiding her, she discovered how to focus her abilities without strain. She learned that her power responded to intention and emotion. When she felt calm, it became precise. When she felt fear, it grew wild. Humanity taught her balance, patience, and choice. In return, Lyra taught humans something as well. She showed them that legacy did not need to be built through domination. Her people had failed because they chose control over trust. Humanity had succeeded because they chose care over fear. This lesson spread quietly, influencing future decisions across human space. Far beyond Ilaos Haven, the enemy fleet retreated into the dark. They carried stories of humans who refused to surrender a child and of a legacy that no longer belonged to them. Other species listened, some were wary, others were curious, but all took notice. Humanity had drawn a line, not with conquest but with conviction. Lyra often returned to the observation corridor where her journey had begun. She would stand watching the stars, feeling their distant pull. She no longer felt like an orphan drifting alone. Instead, she felt like a bridge between worlds, between past and future. Her wings would sometimes unfold slightly, catching the light, as if greeting the universe. One day she asked Hale what humans were known for among the stars. He thought carefully before answering. He said humans were known for persistence, for protecting what they cared about, and for standing when others walked away. Lyra smiled softly, understanding that this was why her people's final hope had survived. It had found the right hands. As time passed, Lyra became a symbol not of fear but of unity. Stories spread of an alien child raised by humans who stood against darkness and chose compassion. Those stories inspired alliances and softened old conflicts. Humanity's reputation grew not as conquerors but as guardians. Lyra's future remained unwritten. She might one day travel beyond Ilaos Haven and explore the galaxy. She might help rebuild what was lost or create something entirely new. Whatever she chose, humanity would stand behind her, not as owners but as family. In the quiet of the station, a simple truth echoed: humanity did not fear the unknown, humanity protected it, and in doing so they became something greater than they had ever imagined.